Oh, what could have been for the Vikings this weekend? A tough one in Dublin. We'll recap the game against the Steelers. Plus, the Bison dominate South Dakota. Hot Mike starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Missed Chances edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls. KNBN in western South Dakota. And Inforum.com. Happy Overreaction Monday. We got lots to overreact to today on a beautiful final Monday of September. 29th day of the month here. We're wrapping up. We're heading for 85 degrees in October. Let's go by the time the week is out. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program. I decided to come to work today because I felt if I stayed at home knowing full well what happened yesterday on the baseball diamond, it wouldn't serve anybody any good. First off, me, to sit there and wallow in it knowing full well what the inevitable was coming, as is the Mets miss the playoffs. I'm not going to spend much on it. I'll wait till the end of the program because we got bigger other topics to talk about between now and 11 o'clock. I'll give at least a little bit on what transpired yesterday because we now know the 12-team bracket for the baseball postseason, which begins tomorrow, and should be dynamite. I only say this, and this is completely sour grapes, that I do miss the one-game playoff. If we have teams tied, we should have a one-game playoff for it. Twins fans would have mixed feelings on that, knowing how 2008 went, as opposed to 2009, when the Twins lost to the White Sox in 2008, then beat the Tigers in 2009. There is something to it. But I get baseball doesn't want to go till the middle of November, but you just miss that when you have ties at the top of the standings or for wild card positions that you could have a one-gamer to decide it. That being said, win more games. Don't lose to the Nationals. We'll save that for later on in the show. Holy cow, what a weekend to recap. Bison football looked pretty good. Looked pretty good what they did to South Dakota. We'll get to that coming up later on in the show. We had a big weekend of FCS football. Our guy Sam Herder will be along to come up to recap that and look ahead to full conference play for everybody starting here. The first Saturday of October is coming up. We'll do that later on in the show. Dynamite weekend of high school football as well. We are down the stretch run here. We got 3 weeks to go in the regular season in North Dakota and Minnesota. So we're already past the halfway point, and we're starting to really see who's who in the top divisions in North Dakota and in Minnesota. If you were over at the Moorhead game on Friday night, you got to see in full display why Maple Grove is who they are. Crimson are awfully darn good. The Spuds are not a bad football team, and Maple Grove just toyed with them on Friday. More on that coming up later on in the show. But let's recap what we saw in Dublin yesterday. The Vikings heading overseas had never lost an overseas game, facing a Steelers team that right before the game, Jalen Warren, one of their top players, couldn't play. Aaron Rodgers, the Vikings destroyed Aaron Rodgers last year in London when they played as a member of the New York Football Jets. Well, the Steelers' offense was humming early. Kenneth Gainwell will score early on to give the Steelers a 7-3 lead. And they also had this guy, DK Metcalf, just takes a slant and like a tank down the sidelines, 80 yards for a touchdown. 14-3 Steelers in the second. That's the score with 6 minutes to go here. Carson Wentz's pass is picked off It was deflected at the line of scrimmage, one of a couple tipped interceptions. We move to the third quarter, 14-6. Wentz here in a world of trouble, gets brought down, lost the football. The Vikings were at about their fifth-string offensive lineman. More on that coming up. It's still 14-6. Here's another tip one, and guess, of course, TJ Watt's going to come up with it. That ball gets about 8 rows into the stands. Steelers would come down. Gainwell from 4 yards out. It's a rout. It's 21-6 Steelers at this point. They would add a field goal to go up 24-6 early in the fourth quarter. Probably people got their groceries, went to church, missed the Vikes comeback as Wentz goes to the back of the end zone for Xavier Scott. It's 24 now to 12. They get the two-pointer, makes it 24-14. Vikes get the ball back. Wentz with a beauty. Jordan Addison, how is he this open? And then Addison looked like he slowed up. He gets caught. This should have been a touchdown. Instead, the Vikes have to go into the end zone here on this one of Jalen Naylor. All of a sudden, it's 24-21 with 2 minutes to go. We got a game. Steelers on a 3rd and 1. Can't get a first down here. The Vikes defense, after getting torched early in the game, gets a stop. So they get the ball back. Wentz here, pass tipped, knocked away. A crazy ending to this game. The Steelers did everything they could to give the Vikings a chance to at least tie it. But Pittsburgh hangs on and beats Minnesota by the final count of 24-21. You see the numbers of Carson Wentz, who throws it 46 times for 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. The Vikes couldn't run the ball to the tune of 70 total yards. That's more on the offensive line and the fact of the guys that they lost yesterday. Afterwards, a frustrated crew met the media.
You go into the game, trying to make sure you do everything in your power for, based upon what you view as the challenges going into the game. From a standpoint, I thought we tried to do everything, every which way we could try to limit T.J. Watt's effectiveness. He's a really, really unique, special player, and throughout the game we had some breakdowns, at some other areas, and just kind of took us out of the flow of being able to run the football. It took us out of the flow of being able to use our play-action pass game. I thought we did do a pretty good job early moving the football via, the ball coming out pretty quick and trying to find ways to get some catch-and-run opportunities.
At the end of the day, we lost. That's all I care about. That's all I'm concerned about. Got a bad taste in my mouth that the defense stepped up when we needed them at the end, got us the ball back. In those situations, it pains me to be left there out on the field with a chance and come up short. So I'm not here to evaluate the rest of the play. We had some chances. A couple tipped picks, those suck. Not gonna lie, those are tough. They kind of derailed what I thought. We had some decent momentum going on a couple drives, and so that was tough. But at the end of the day, we lost, and that's all that matters.
All right, a couple things here.
You go into the
game played out. Carson ended up being pressured 40% of the time. The Viking offensive line, Brian O'Neill leaves the game, starting right tackle, possible MCL injury, had an MRI last night. We're going to find out today on where he's at. So that's not good. Already you're without Donovan Jackson, your first-round pick at left guard, who had wrist surgery earlier last week, and he's out till the bye. Ryan Kelly, the guy you spent multi-million dollars on, your starting center, was concussed again. I mean, now you have to think about long-term his health just in life. Like football, he's got 2 concussions in 4 weeks that he may have to be done. Okay, so those are 3 guys of your starting offensive line gone. No wonder Wentz was getting flustered with a guy like T.J. Watt in his face the entire game, or balls batted down. That's not what this was promised to be when the season began. Guys get hurt, but that is ravaged with injury now. I mean, Blake Brandel came into play yesterday. Justin School's playing again, and we've already seen that act. I don't know what you do between now and next Sunday. I mean, Darisaw played the whole game. That was a nice bonus, I guess. I didn't know if after playing a half last week in Cincinnati that your left tackle was good to go. But if your starting right tackle, your starting center, and your starting left guard are out, I don't care what level of football. I mean, you're going to struggle. And the Vikes certainly did that yesterday. They can't run the ball. I thought defensively, run defense, I mean, Kenneth Gainwell looked like he had the game of his life. This guy was like the third stringer with the Eagles a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs. He's not a dynamic runner. He made him look like Walter Payton yesterday. That was a lot to be desired in that. Pittsburgh entered the game 31st in rushing. Steelers had 131 yards on 29 carries. That's almost 5 yards a carry. He had 100 yards with 2 touchdowns with Gainwell. And straight up the gut were some of them. So, work to do for the Vikings. Now, the division race, after yesterday's results, the Bears block a late field goal and beat the Raiders. So Chicago went from 0-2 to 2-2. The Vikes now sit at 2-2. The Lions have looked like the Lions, frankly. Since they lost to Green Bay, they rout Chicago. They get a monster win at Baltimore, and they routed the Browns yesterday. And then the Packers have a mind-numbing game yesterday with Dallas. The finish of that game, they were this close to losing. They tie. So let's circle back here on December 29th to see how big that may play in the standings. It's not a loss, but it's not a win either for Green Bay, and a wild one in Dallas last night. As for the rest of the league, another crazy Sunday around the National Football League. Buffalo did what they were expected to do in beating the Saints. Falcons have now won a couple in a row. They beat the Commanders, who are again without Jaden Daniels. How about the Patriots routing Carolina? New England all of a sudden has won a couple in a row. The Giants got their first win as Jackson Dart and New York beat the Chargers. Eagles are still unbeaten, hung on and beat the Chiefs. Jacksonville gets a nice win. The Jags are 3-1, tied with the Colts now in the AFC South. The Chiefs are 2-2 after they beat the Ravens. Lamar Jackson had to leave with a hamstring injury, so Baltimore's 1-3. And remember, we got 2 games tonight with the Jets and the Dolphins and the Broncos and the Bengals to wrap up Week 4. So, fun day yesterday across the NFL. We had an ultimate sports Sunday. You had that going on, the final day of the baseball season, the Ryder Cup, which was a boat race when we last left you on Friday, suddenly got interesting. The WNBA playoffs were continuing. Vegas and Indiana, we're going to have a Game 5 in that series. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Lynx, when we last left you on Friday morning, were tied at a game apiece with the next 2 games guaranteed to be in Phoenix. Game 3 was a debacle, folks. Nafisa Collier got not only injured, fouled. No foul was called. Cheryl Reeve went crazy, was ejected from the game, said some things that were both, I would say, honest, but also probably over the line to get suspended. So she wasn't even on the bench last night. And Collier, when Nafisa Collier's rolling up in a boot and on a scooter, ain't good news for your favorite WNBA team. Facing a Phoenix team playing inspired. But yet, the Lynx, Kayla McBride was sensational. Hit 6-3. The Lynx were dominating this game. Second time in this series they got up by 15 points or more. And yet, the Mercury would come back. Sammy Whitcomb with a 3. It's a 1-point game. 4 minutes to go. Dawana Bonner is one of the all-time greats in playoff history, shooting threes. Mercury now have the lead at 72-70. It's 74-73. She hits another one. Now they're up 4. The crowd's going crazy. Minute to go. Watch McBride say, in your eye. Drains that one. It's a 1-point game. 30 seconds to go. Mercury up 3. I don't know how you let Alyssa Thomas just go right to the basket. Phoenix is moving on. They knock out the top team of the WNBA. Had their best season, regular season ever. They are out in the semifinals. The Mercury win 86-81 to win the series 3-1 and send Minnesota home. Collier, it wasn't a fracture, what we were told before the game, but she was obviously out. McBride did everything she could. The Lynx blow 2 games where they had leads of 15 points or more. And that's why they're going home. Phoenix will play for the WNBA championship. The finals will begin Friday. Remember, it's best of 7 now. Phoenix will play the winner of Vegas and Indiana. There'll be a Game 5 in that series coming up on Tuesday night. The winner of that will play the Mercury for the WNBA championship in the best of 7 series starting on Friday. Just could not be more disappointed, frankly, at how the Lynx finished. They did not play their best ball down the stretch. We saw that at the end of the regular season. Collier was coming back from injury, but they stumbled against a couple teams that you were not supposed to stumble to. But it's over. And some change probably coming to the roster as well. It's what happens when a team has that kind of season. Last year, lose in the 5th game of the WNBA Finals, and now out in the semis the year after. All right, last thing before we set up our show. The Ryder Cup, for those that decided to invest time in it, more power to you. I will say, for my fellow New Yorkers, not thrilled with them this morning. How they acted all weekend long was abhorrent. Some of the things that were said, and now with an era of cell phone video, you can capture anybody being an idiot, being an adult, and saying things that I would never hope to have my son hear anybody say around me, let alone myself say. That's not even talking about what was happening on the golf course, because the United States was getting blown off the map. Europe had dominated the first 2 days to the tune they only needed a couple of points to win. The Americans decided to show up on Sunday. Cam Young, fellow New Yorker, was great. He won his match. Justin Thomas pours in a putt. I'm totally objecting his celebration. He was awful all weekend long. Great, you won. But at this point, if you were watching, like, wait a minute, there might be a slim window for the United States to come back. Scotty Scheffler finally played well. He won his match. Bryson DeChambeau halves his match. The United States is getting the points that they need to make one of the greatest comebacks ever. Patrick Cantlay, who was great all weekend, one of the rares for the Americans, misses. He loses his match to Ludwig Oberg. That was so far the only European full point. It was going to come down to Russell Henley and his match with Shane Lowry. Out of the bunker at the 18th. That is a fabulous golf shot. Now Lowry is in the middle of the fairway. The Europeans played the 18th amazingly all weekend long. Lowry says, all right, he goes inside of Henley. So Russell Henley has to make this putt for the United States to still have a shot to win the Ryder Cup. And he leaves it short. No, you can't leave that putt short. So Lowry, this is to retain the Ryder Cup. And the former Open champion, of course, drills it. The Europeans win it 15-13, the final. First win on U.S. soil since 2012. The drama started when Victor Hovland had to withdraw because of a neck injury, and because it's called the envelope rule, where if the guy can't play, it's not a full point to the U.S., it's actually a half. So all the Europeans needed as we came down the stretch was a half point. And the way the Americans were playing, literally, if this was going to come down to that, that was going to be awfully nasty. Keegan Bradley was not thrilled about it. Regardless, don't get blown off the map the first 2 days. Dominant performance. You got to tip your hat to the Europeans. They were great. And to win the Ryder Cup. Next time it's back in U.S. soil, it'll be back in Minnesota. Hazeltine, 2029. It goes back over to Europe in 27. But congratulations to the Europeans. They better than the Americans, especially in the team part of that. Holy cow. Dominant there. We have a packed show coming up for you here on Overreaction Monday. We'll salute our best of the weekend coming up in just a few minutes. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Our usual Monday staples are with us. Sam Herter will join us at 9:35 to give us the lowdown on the FCS. He's also been working on a story that's intriguing for those that follow FCS football. That is in regards to private equity coming in to take over the FCS playoffs. We'll try and get Sam to explain as best we can on that coming up at 9:35. Jeff Kolpack will be along at 10 o'clock. The top-ranked Bison routed South Dakota, put up half 100 on the Coyotes. What that means for the opening of league play, Bison getting ready to head to Normal to take on Illinois State. We'll preview that coming up later on in the show. Also at 10:35, we'll do our high school football recap, which we do each and every Monday, looking back at the top performances of the weekend. As I mentioned, we're now on the back end of the high school football season. That's coming up at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Monday morning. We're glad you're joining us. We're just getting started. Hot Mike back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com. All right, we do our best of the weekend. We do it each and every Monday in this time slot. Got a couple of really good candidates today. We got to send some congratulations out to our guys in Jamestown. University of Jamestown has a win in football in the Division II era for the first time. Saturday in the Twin Cities facing Concordia St. Paul. Brian Mistro's team got out to an early lead, and they did not look back after that. Up 6-3 after one. It was 20-10 at halftime. They had 3 picks in the game. Cole Henches with a couple of rushing touchdowns. Then he goes to the air. 89-yard touchdown here. Erastus Encino gets loose. It almost looked like the DK Metcalf play that we saw in the Vikings game. It was 20-3 at that point. How about a little pick six action as well? You know everything's going well for you here. Herschel Jefferson, 37 yards. The route was on. They got to sing the song in St. Paul, 33-22. The final. Congratulations to the Jimmies. They are on the board for their first D2 win. And it's been tough, and we've talked to Coach Mistro a couple times. And they had only scored 7 points in each of their first 3 games. So they exploded there and get a big win. Now they got a rivalry game coming up this Saturday. Mary's coming to Jamestown. I know when speaking with both the school president this summer and with Brian, this is a game they had circled. So a nice win there. Congratulations. That's a long time coming to pick that one up. Congratulations in order to Jen Lopez and the Bison volleyball team. They are rolling. Saturday night, lost in all the hoopla around the football team's win. The Bison volleyball team took on UND in its Summit League opener. They closed out the third set. They had 10 unanswered points there. The place was packed. Shout out, by the way, to the fans that went. 1,200 people filled the BBF on Saturday night. Lauren Jansen had 11 kills. The Bison are unbeaten at the BBF. They're now 6-0. They won 3 rip over UND. They're now 7-4 on the season. That's a good win. They've been off to a really nice start. We had Coach Lopez on the show two and a half weeks ago after they got off to their nice start. Congratulations to them. It's a good win. It's a nice way to finish out homecoming as well on Saturday. Back in action on Thursday. They go to Kansas City. We'll see. They're trying to get into that top half. They've had fits and starts over the last couple of years with Bison volleyball where they got onto a nice start, struggled in the middle, or struggle for a bit, then had a nice finish. They're trying to be consistent, get into that top half. But you win your matches at home, you're going to have a chance to be really good. We saw that with soccer last year, that they were great at home, found a way to win a couple, end up winning the league championship. It's early on. It's the first match, but congratulations to the Bison volleyball team with a nice win on Saturday night. Lastly, we wrap things up on our best of the weekend. a guy that we used to feature quite a bit on First Down Friday. We had him on our show a handful of times, especially when he was in the recruiting grinder. It's great to see Carter Menz having some success at the University of Minnesota. On Saturday in a crazy game with Rutgers, Menz came up there. He has number 11 with his first collegiate sack. He ended up having 5 tackles in the win for the U. He was 4th on the team in tackles, had 2 TFLs and a sack in Minnesota's 31-28 win over Rutgers. You know, I'm sure there were some up here that, well, what's PJ doing recruiting up here? He's never going to play. Well, Menz is at a steady rise up the depth chart. He and Riley Sunram both getting opportunities, and Carter capitalized with a big-time way, and Minnesota needed every single play on Saturday. So congratulations to Carter. That was awesome to see. Saw him do that plenty of times at Cheyenne, and now doing that on the Big Ten, in a Big Ten game. That's good stuff there. Between him and Pedshock doing what he's doing in Nebraska, Jeremy Newton got to be smiling this morning at Cheyenne. That is our best of the weekend. We do it each and every Monday at 9:20. Appreciate the submissions we got this week. We'll break. We come back. Our guy Sam Herder will join us to recap the weekend that was in FCS football and his private equity coming into the FCS playoffs. That's coming up on the other side of the break. Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning edition of Hot Mic, rough and rolling here. Jeff Kolpack will join us about a half hour on this Overreaction Monday. Nobody better to overreact with than our next guest, who joins us each and every Monday at 9:35. Our guy Sam Herder from Hero Sports BetMGM to give us the lowdown on week number 5 of FCS football. Look ahead to week 6, where we are now fully into conference play, so we're starting to get maybe an early picture for postseason. I'm interested in your ballot. I know you and I are pretty similar on where we have for the top 5, and I want to get to the Grizz in a second on what they did to Idaho, but we're starting, I think, to shake things out on who. I think certainly we have 5 really good teams, maybe one really, really good team here in Fargo. Where do you stand on where we're at top 10-wise, and how many teams are good, really, really good?
Yeah, I think the top 5 right now is looking strong. I do think NDSU stands out a bit more. I think there's, I don't necessarily want to say, a big gap, just because, again, we don't know, but just yet. But I do think NDSU is maybe a small tier above everyone else. Even if their resume, their resume might not look as good as South Dakota State or even, Montana, because both of those schools now have 2 ranked wins. NDSU has the one. We'll see if USD now falls out of the rankings or not, but there's still a certain level of weight you give to the eye test, and NDSU has handled opponents like they're supposed to handle them. So I do think NDSU to me is a clear number 1. But South Dakota State, I still think continues to look really good. I think the Grizz have looked really good as well ever since that 4th quarter against UND. It seems like that has kind of vaulted the Grizz into having a really good season so far. And we saw Montana State go toe-to-toe with South Dakota State, so I think that's telling as well. And then Tarleton State, I think, is hanging as well. I do think they could be a dangerous team in the playoffs, and if they keep on winning games, they could host through the quarterfinals. Maybe I don't know if they'll get a top 2 seed. That's a longer discussion, but I do think Tarleton State is kind of that team that's going to bubble up like UIW did a few years ago, or UAlbany did a couple of years ago.
The one thing Tarleton has that the rest of them don't, Sam, is an FBS win. So if we want to project down the road, and if they are able to do what they want to do in conference play, they can go to the committee and say, well, look, we got this, the rest of you guys don't.
Yeah, and they'll have to be cheering for Army as well, yes, because right now Army is 1-3. So it's not the Army team of last year that had 9 wins, I think. And if they go on a run, that's going to age well for Tarleton State. But as we like to say, not all FBS wins are the same. And if your best win is over an Army team that is 3-9, is that more impressive than South Dakota State going to Montana State and getting a win, or NDSU going to South Dakota State and getting a win? Hypothetically, I personally don't think so. But the UAC, like we've talked about, is good this year. I do think they are the third best conference. And so if they go through that conference play undefeated, I do think that that would be very impressive for Tarleton.
Is Incarnate Word back from the dead? They had a big win. I mean, they blew out Abilene Christian. I was following that score Saturday night looking, holy cow. So is UIW back?
I think they're going to be. They might not be, the top 5 team that we're expecting, but I do think they are back as far as being a playoff team, and they've already kind of set themselves back quite a ways, and so they probably will have to go on the road in the quarterfinals if they make it that far. But since they've made that quarterback change, and you could say the same thing about Mercer as well. Mercer also made a quarterback change. They look like a whole new team now, and UIW is now going with EJ Colson, and he's looked sharp these last 3 games. 2 games ago, they almost went to Northern Arizona and got a win, and that's a ranked team and a tough place to get a win. And this last weekend, they handled Abilene Christian, who was hot. I mean, ACU handled Austin Peay pretty decisively, and Austin Peay has a rather decisive, FBS win. And so now we're getting to the point where we're comparing this score to that score and that score and this performance against that performance. But I do think UIW, that was a much-needed win, and it could potentially vault them into going on a nice run here through Southland play.
All right, I had enough emails to ask you about this. Is it time to start paying attention to Presbyterian? Now, they are a non-scholarship school. They play in the Pioneer League. They're unbeaten. They have a win over Mercer that happened earlier in the year. They've played, I think, 2 non-Division Ones. How do we make of the Blue Hose, and should we be taking them seriously?
I think as far as being a ranked team, we should take them seriously. It took me a while to put them in my rankings. I have them in right now in my top 25, but last week and the previous weeks I didn't. They're 5-0. They have 3 FCS wins, 2 non-D1 wins, and they beat Furman and Mercer. And both of those teams are 3-1 now. So those wins have aged well. Like we talked about, Mercer since then has made a quarterback switch. They're going with a true freshman now. And I think if Mercer and Presbyterian were to play this week, I would pick Mercer to win. And so that maybe knocks Presbyterian back. But if they keep on winning, I think I don't know how high they're going to rise necessarily in the rankings, but just with those 2 SoCon wins, we'll see what they do through the Pioneer Football League, which could be a pretty decent race. But I think as far as being a ranked team, they deserve to have that sort of attention.
The one thing they have going for them, they do not play San Diego because there's too many teams that they don't have a whole round robin in the Pioneer League. So that's to me, San Diego seems like the clear-cut best team in the league. They don't play them in the regular season.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And Presbyterian, they're getting good quarterback play as well. Colin Hurst, I believe his name is. He's been playing really well. So I think that'll be a pretty exciting race.
All right, there's the first time we ever met Presbyterian on a hot mic, so we can get everybody excited about that. Late Saturday night, I didn't make it to the end of the game. Montana was up when I lost consciousness there. But what do we make of the Grizz and what they did to Idaho Saturday night?
Yeah, I thought it was a really impressive performance by the Grizz, and it's one of those games where you have to, either rewatch it or watch it or check the box score, because it was like an 11-point win, something like that. But Montana had a 20 or near 20-point lead until the final minutes of the fourth quarter, and the Grizz had a double-digit lead for most of that game, and you really felt like they were in command that whole way. Idaho, their offense was just not good the first half, but then the second half they came alive a little bit, hit some explosive plays to at least not necessarily be within reach, but to prevent it from being a total blowout. It was a 3-score game, and then Idaho would hit on explosive play and then make it a 2-score game and kind of just hang around a little bit. But you really felt like Montana was in total command of that game. And it's interesting with the Grizz, because you go back to the preseason and you weren't really sure how to gauge them, because they'd literally replaced their whole defense, like all new starters. Yet the word was the Grizz might be better on defense just because they're more athletic and they got guys that fit the system a little bit more. And I think so far we're seeing that play out. And then offensively, the question mark was quarterback play, as it has been with Montana for quite some time. And Ayat, didn't play good against UND for 3 quarters, and then he led them to that comeback. And since then, he's been phenomenal. Super comfortable, super confident. He's getting clean pockets for him to step up and rifle some nice throws in. And so I think that offense has taken the next step. And then Eli Gilman, I think it's just been fantastic. The Walter Payton Award will probably go to a quarterback, but if there's a running back that deserves it, I think Eli Gilman is going to be in that conversation.
Now, the one caveat I'd say with the Grizz, Sam, they have not left Missoula. They have not left the state of Montana for the start of the season. They're going to finally do that, which we'll get to in a second in our spotlight games coming up. But they haven't played a road game. UND was their toughest opponent, I would say. I think they're better than Idaho. That, I guess, is incomplete, at least for me. I know the schedule is what it is, but they haven't played a road game yet.
Yeah, they're going to have, I believe it'd be 8 home games. This year, which is just crazy. But I mean, it's good for them that they can schedule that, because that's the luxury of having a football program that invests and gets fan support, because Montana doesn't have to play a Power 4 opponent. They can just host whoever in the non-conference and get paid more. They get like $1.2 million per home game in ticket revenue, so they don't have to go to other people's places. They can pay people to come in because they'll have a great return on investment there. So their schedule sits well as far as who they get at home, including Montana State. I think their toughest road game, I believe they go to Sac State, but the Hornets just lost to Cal Poly, and so that might not be as difficult as we originally thought. So I do think scheduling is on their side, but with that said, I do think they do look like a good ball club. So you kind of have to factor that in as well, that they do look like a good ball club. Plus, they have the schedule that sits on their side, so it all sets up nicely for them.
I want your 2 cents on what you saw Saturday in Fargo. I think we already had some red flags on South Dakota coming into this. We talked about it last week on the show. Whatever we saw in Ames, the game with Lamar, how it finished with Northern Colorado, I think you got to trust your eyes, Sam, and I think that's what we saw Saturday when the Bison played.
Yeah, I think anytime you beat an opponent like that, it's impressive. Anytime you beat a Valley team like that, it's impressive. Even if it is like, a bottom dweller like Murray State, you still go, okay, like when you dominate like that, it's impressive. And yeah, South Dakota has really fallen off. I think you can see that, and we'll see what they do from here. Maybe they rattle off some wins, maybe we don't. Watching that game, it was kind of a blend of, man, NDSU looks awesome, but also like USDS falling off so quickly. And I know there was some FCS discussion after they beat Northern Colorado that even though they won, they should have fallen out of the top 25, just because you put their resume and you put that resume on Youngstown State, and Youngstown State probably wouldn't have been ranked, but because it was South Dakota and they were semifinalists last year, they kind of stuck in the rankings. And after how they played against Drake, you thought, okay, maybe this is a bit of a launching point for them, and they're starting to click. And I don't think anyone thought they were going to go to Fargo and win, but at least keep it respectable and hang in there, establish the run a little bit, maybe make it tough, offensively for NDSU, but they just didn't belong on the same field. And I think NDSU just continues to roll, and, Cole Payton has been fabulous, and, Bryce Lance, I don't know how you defend him, and if you do, you got other wide receivers that can make plays, and, the NDSU offensive line plays well. Defensively for the Bison, they're just flying around, and there's some explosive plays every now and then that defenses will hit, which always happens in games, but it's just really hard to find a lot of success on that Bison defense.
Bison have been really good. Again, level of opponent is what it is, but that is now it's a conference game, and they did that. I think we got to start, again, trusting our eyes. The Bison look like they're pretty good.
Yeah, and the toughest opponents are still to come, and on the road this week to Illinois State, which is a top 10-ish team, and Illinois State hasn't fared too well, but I think that potentially could be another good test for the Bison.
Let's get to our spotlight games, which is that right off the hop. The Bison are playing. It's a night game as well, so there's going to be some gamesmanship here for Illinois State, hoping for a big crowd. They have not beat the Bison since 2010, Sam. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and Illinois State has got some good preseason love, and they're pretty highly ranked for the Redbirds, but they haven't really beaten that top-notch opponent, whether it's NDSU or South Dakota State. So this is a good gauge for both teams. Montana State goes to Northern Arizona, another ranked matchup. NAU is a tricky place to play, and the Cats had a competitive game there a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of years ago, I should say. South Dakota State goes to Youngstown State. I think another ranked matchup again. Youngstown State is kind of hanging in the 20s there, so this is a good test for South Dakota State, and we'll see what Youngstown can do. They've been competitive in some games as well. And the last one, West Georgia goes to Austin Peay. West Georgia just keeps on winning. 5-0 now, second year as part of Division One. They're not going to be playoff eligible until 2027 because of the long transition process. So another great test for West Georgia. And I think Austin Peay will continue to be ranked. So it's looking like 4 ranked matchups this week, but we'll see exactly what the rankings are.
I'm telling you right now, West Georgia could go into the playoffs and win a game. I've seen enough. I think I just that's the disappointing part of this is they could make the playoffs and maybe win a game or two, and they're not eligible.
Yeah, and they're a D2 team, or a former D2 team that had success at that level, and I think they're investing pretty well. They got great talent. They can recruit out of high school. They can also get some nice transfers, so that's a program to keep an eye on.
Let's go back to that Northern Arizona game. I'm interested. If Montana State's looked better since the loss to the Jacks, and they've handled the opponents that they've need to. I'm really interested in that game. You mentioned Flagstaff's not an easy place to play. We've seen other teams lose down there. I'm keeping my eye on that one on Saturday afternoon. Let's see how NAU plays against a team they haven't been able to get over the hump against.
Yeah, Northern Arizona has looked good. They're a very experienced squad from last year's playoff team. So this is a really good test for Montana State. And, they 2 games ago, they kind of had that ho-hum 17-0 win over Mercyhurst. But this last weekend, they handled Eastern Washington. And that's the type of performance that, past Montana State squads would handle Eastern Washington like that, and they did it again. And the Cats on defense look great. I don't know if they have the best defense in the FCS, but it might be top 2, top 3, if not number 1. They look really, really good defensively. I do think they're better on that side of the ball than they were last year. And then offensively for the Cats, they're just different this year. They can still run the ball, but under their new offensive coordinator, they're throwing it much more. And Lamson isn't Tommy Mellott as far as his playmaking ability, but he's a more pure passer, a better passer than Mellott. So it's just a different looking Montana State offense. And I think once that really starts to click with their different scheme, I do think they are definitely a contender again this year.
All right, we got a couple minutes left. I've tried to save enough runway for you to explain your story you've been working on, and great job reporting on this because everybody else was following you after you broke the story on the FCS playoffs, considering using a private equity firm to break away from the NCAA to run the FCS postseason. Can you boil it down to where we're at with this story?
Yeah, I first caught wind of this 2 weeks ago, and I was kind of 55-45 as far as excited / over concerned. But then I did more reporting on it last Monday, a day before the meeting, and I was probably 65% excited, 35% concerned. And now after, the full story is not out just yet because there's still a lot of small details to iron out because this is the first step in a long process of happening. But I'm probably 75% excited while still 25% concerned and unknown. But essentially what the pitch is from this group called Sequence Equity is to take the FCS playoffs out of the NCAA model and run it as its own playoff, a private playoff. And a new entity would run this, and this entity would be owned by the FCS conferences. And so the FCS conferences would own the FCS playoffs, and then this private equity group would have minority stake and inject potentially tens of millions of dollars into it. And for those that wonder how this would work, it's the same thing as the college football playoff. The FBS postseason is owned by all FBS conferences. And the value in this is the FCS is really handcuffed right now under the NCAA umbrella because they can't negotiate their own TV rights. They can't get their own sponsorships. And so some people look at it as, well, private equity coming in, that's kind of, you don't necessarily want to go down that road. And I'm somewhat in that boat. But the pitch here is not only for that money to come in, but also it allows the FCS to get more sponsorships, to get a better TV deal, and in turn, you can make more money off of the FCS playoffs. This group views it as a really solid entity with great TV with great TV ratings, but is really under monetized as far as how it makes money. And so I think the benefits of this is one, money, right? You can now get a more financially incentivizing playoff bracket. If you don't have to bid on home games, if you don't have to get rid of that ticket revenue, all of a sudden if you're Montana State and you host 3 playoff games, that's $3 million more in revenue that you get to keep. And so I think it could potentially make the FCS more stable as far as realignment and teams. Instead of wanting to make the jump to the FBS at whatever cost possible, now they can view the FCS playoffs as like we can actually make money, in the playoffs. And if we make it to the national title game, maybe there's some type of reward there, because I do think there could be a lot of money involved in this. It's a long way from actually happening. There's a lot of steps that need to be taken, a lot of conversations that need to be made. But I think right now there's enough intrigue and excitement to bring this to the NCAA to say, hey, this is what we learned. How would it work on your end to break off, from the NCAA as far as the postseason, and then kind of move the conversation along from there.
Where is the next step in this before I let you go? What has to happen now going forward?
Yeah, I think the conversation has to now go to the NCAA as far as like how, because the NCAA owns the FCS playoffs, and it's a part of that big TV bundle. So now the conversation is, if we wanted to move forward with this, how would it work? Would we be able to unbundle? Like, would you allow us to do this without any repercussion? And from what I heard is, the NCAA might be more open to this idea than some people might think, to kind of hand this off to a third party and say, hey, if you guys want to run this and take it off our plates, like, have at it. And we've seen like men's soccer at the college level has kind of had some conversations about like how they might be run by like the professional league, something like that. And we see it with the NIT, we see it with the CFP. And so there is past precedent for this to happen. I'm sure if the NCAA handed this off and kind of broke that contract, there would be some type of guarantee as well for the NCAA. But it could potentially be a smoother handoff than what we thought. And, ESPN could just re-up, with its TV deal as well. And so that could be smooth as well. But there's a lot of conversations for this to take place. And if it did happen, like 2027 maybe, but most likely 2028 is when this would start. So we're a long ways to figure out all the finer details of this and if it would work or not.
Great reporting on this, bud. It's been interesting to follow, something we're going to keep our eyes peeled to as well. Great stuff as always. We'll see you next week, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
There you go. Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday to give us the lowdown on what's going on across the country in FCS football. We'll break. We'll wrap up our first hour. Jeff Kolpack coming up in hour 2. Plus, a look back at the best high school games of the last weekend. Back on a busy Overreaction Monday on Hot Mic after this. Fast-moving opening hour of the big show in the books. We come back. Jeff Kolpack will join us, recap the Bison big win, and look ahead to normal. That's coming up when Hot Mic Hour 2 starts after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2. Forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
All right, it's that time again with our guy Jeff Kolpack. His appearances are brought to us each and every Monday by Northwestern Mutual. Good to see you, my man.
Happy Monday morning.
I would think in the years we've been doing this that the eye test is the ultimate validation of how you view any kind of sporting activity. The eye test on South Dakota coming into Saturday was there were red flags, there were warning signs, and maybe even I didn't account as much as I needed to because that came home to roost at about 1:30 Saturday afternoon.
It sure did, and the losses of the portal South Dakota endured were very evident.
We illustrated that on Bison Game Day, Kolpack. I mean, the graphic was to the top to the bottom of guys that they had lost.
And, South Dakota State, I think, has done a pretty good job of replacing all the guys they lost. I'm very impressed with how the Jacks have played. Nope. I didn't see that coming. There's so many guys that went to Washington State. 16? There was 19 guys in all. And then it seems like they've replaced those guys as advertised.
Yep.
So, good for the Jacks. The Coyotes not so much.
No. I mean, they look slow. That was the evidence to me defensively.
Yeah, their secondary was weak.
Yep.
Bryce Lance could have been running around all day.
And he was. Basically, he was. Cole Payton was as well, which I'll get to. But that's the time that we're going to see probably more often than not now in FCS football where a team may bubble up and be good like USD was and then have that and maybe not have the depth to recover as other teams like the Bison or the Jackrabbits have.
Yeah, 51-13 is nothing.
No.
Nothing to. There was no fluke either.
No.
It was no fluke.
These are like the old Bison USD
Right.
games that we got used to covering for 8, 9 years prior to what we saw happen in 23 and 24.
Now, here comes Illinois State, which should have lost to North Alabama in much the same manner that South Dakota should have lost to Northern Colorado. So we really don't know about Illinois State as we head into this game. They're off last week. Should have lost to North Alabama. They just had to kick an extra point and they win.
They gave up 30 to Eastern Illinois. That, again, worries me.
Again,
look at that, right?
There's a red flag,
right.
as red as your shirt
now.
right now.
I look at that, and they beat Moorhead State was their other, which is a non-scholarship
so
school.
bad.
So
Moorhead I watched a little bit of Presbyterian Moorhead State game.
That's the second
MORE.
Presbyterian reference we got on the show today.
MORE Moorhead. And, oh, wow, is that not good? Oh,
is Presbyterian good?
I don't know.
Well, they could win that league.
Yeah.
I mean, they're unbeaten at 5-0 after they won.
I'm still trying to
last week.
figure out how to spell Presbyterian.
There's a Y in there. Let me last pit on South Dakota here because they have Murray, I believe, Indiana State, and Northern Iowa as their next three. So they could be 5-3. They could win those three, but they still have the heavy hitters with UND and the Jackrabbits coming up. I know those games are in Vermilion, but I don't know if is this a playoff team in your mind? South Dakota?
No, not right now. But those three opponents coming up, which is kind of perplexing. Why they kept Aiden Bauman in the game?
Oh, that I'm so glad you got to that because I have not ripped the Band-Aid off on it. I said it 3 times on the broadcast, and I'm sure probably people were watching that were still watching at that point where you're belaboring it, but it's 51-6. Why is the starting quarterback your only guy? Their backup has barely played in 2 years. I couldn't wrap my mind around that.
And you're going against a young defense, the backups at NDSU, who are starving to make a splash play.
Correct.
Peter Haugo, when he sacks the quarterback a couple times, you're not going out there and just sort of pushing him over.
No, Haugo had a couple of big plays late in that game. That to me was perplexing. We couldn't get an answer on it because before the game, USD's sports information director came and told us that they will not be available they would be made available if we were to ask for them, but they weren't going to the post-game press conference.
We could ask a question relayed on the bus, essentially, right? That's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah, I was there with you.
Either way, show up, win or lose.
That was my point, because somebody asked me after the game on Twitter, like, Dom, how often does this happen in the Missouri Valley where the other coach, at least the coach, doesn't show up?
If we lose, we're not talking.
And it is very, very infrequent.
Small-minded. That's just a small-minded thinking way of doing things.
In terms of we have been to how many beatdowns have we covered? And the coach always comes. Terry Allen, I can't even tell you how many times when
Bob Nielsen
did it. Every time that USD got hammered up here would come to it. That to me was odd. If they won, we're going to be there. But if not, that was weird, Kolpack. There was a couple. Those two things were really weird about the game.
And this
Saturday.
is a league that established the standard on sportsmanship with the pregame handshake.
Yes. That was 40 years ago. Patty Viverito installed that of making that happen. This, to me, even Jody Wright, Murray State coach. We've talked to him. The guy before him, Dean Hood, was here in the postgame press conference a couple years ago when Murray got their brains beat in. Western Illinois has done it.
And there's really not a lot we can ask them, like, the
first
opening statement.
I would ask why Bauman was still in the game.
Well,
that's the one thing I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Like, what was it to make it not look as bad as it was? Because that, to me, I'd like an answer on that. That one I would.
Yeah, we don't know. Maybe the backups were all beat up. I don't know.
Well, LJ Phillips didn't play. Their star running back, he was out of the game by the end of the third quarter, right? He wasn't playing. So I don't know. That to me was odd. I'll close the book on USD. Let's flip it to NDSU because you wrote about it. You and I were talking about it after the game that the candidacy for the Walter Payton Award for Cole Payton is officially underway.
I think so. It should be anyway. And again, I go back to the competition. Okay, the first 3 non-conference opponents, not good.
Yep.
South Dakota, not good. So now here comes Illinois State. At some point, you say, he's just destroying teams right now.
I think we had
Whether
that same
they're good or not.
conversation with Trey Lance when he was doing that, in the non-conference to start in 2019 because it was Butler, UND, who I know made the playoffs that season. Davis, I think they beat Delaware. You know what I mean? It was a mixed bag of teams that they played in 2019. But what this play that you watch here, it's like dominoes. There are 4 South Dakota guys that trip over each other.
Guy at the angle, boom.
Right? He got 19 yards on a 3rd and 17. He has been even better than advertised. Hedberg took a shot at me during our broadcast
What'd he say?
on Saturday because Dom kept asking me he could throw. I think the guy can throw. He's just been sensational, Jeff. He's been fantastic.
That throw is just in the dime basket there
to
Bryce.
Right where you needed it to be.
I think what, with Cole Payton now is we haven't seen him handle an adverse situation yet because he hasn't thrown a pick.
No.
There hasn't been
a fumble.
So to me, that's the next step.
Has he been sacked yet? Maybe
one for 2 yards.
Once, right.
But to me, that's the next step is, okay, how can you handle things when the going gets tough, when it really hasn't been tough yet.
The fourth quarter.
In the post-game press conference, it's Staling, it's Cole Payton in the middle, and Bryce Lance. Yeah. And I asked Bryce, I go, is it time to start maybe talking about the guy to your right and the Walter Payton Award? And he goes, I don't think Cole's worried about that, and we have all the faith. And Cole Payton, stone cold looking straight ahead, like I'm sure he's pissed at me for asking the question.
You got to ask though.
Well, you got to ask it, but man, he was focused and like, I don't want to hear about this.
I would say if there's anybody that knows anything about the Payton Award, it'd be Bryce Lance, since his brother obviously won it. But the stats prove it out, what he's done. You mentioned that on Bison Game Day on Saturday that we still haven't seen Cole in a pressure situation, in a adverse situation. I don't know when. Maybe that'll happen Saturday night at Normal.
But he's not 18 years old. I think he'll handle just fine.
Yep. I would say this, by the way, offensive line has been really good.
Pass protection.
I know you mentioned that, I think, in your notebook stuff on inform.com. The Bison O-line, I even think running the football as well. Barika has had monster holes. DJ Scott has had a couple nice ones.
Against defenses apparently who are stacking it a little bit.
Right. The 3 new offensive linemen have looked really good. Bo Johnson has looked dynamite at left tackle. Josh Mangan, what I was told, played his best game at right tackle against SEMO. Tosted and Schneckloth were both getting reps at left guard. Fraley's a rock. We know how good Impey is. That they have looked the part so far.
Yeah, no weaknesses right now. And again, the competition is what it is, but they've been solid. They've been on point.
Yep.
I think there was one false start, so they're taking care of that issue that was a season starting thing.
Even the tight ends. Tight ends, something we were hammering on. Like, okay, look, Finn Diggins is having his best year. I know you wrote about his inspiration of what he's playing for this season. Reese Kessel is a thing. It's done with now. It's 4 games he's had a reception. All of them have been 25 yards or longer, and got his first touchdown on Saturday.
And Finn Diggins changed himself. And he changed himself in the offseason, talking to the NDSU strength staff, where he cut like a big percentage of body fat off. He's much more agile.
He looks it, too. He looks thinner, I guess, is maybe the best way.
It's lean. It's more lean muscle mass is what it is. I mean, I don't think he's lost weight, but it's a different weight.
Yeah.
You look at those. You look at Bo Johnson. Does he look 301?
No.
These guys, it's the lean muscle mass part of it. They look 270, but they're 300.
Yeah, I would say that position has also impressed me so far. All right, now to the defense. They get another touchdown. That linebacker crew, which I know you're going to roll your eyes at me about how preposterous my statement was before the year about how good they could be.
I'm warming up to it.
Woolen makes the play, and Staling is the beneficiary of a pick 6. The linebacker crew is flying right now.
Staling showed his speed, too, after he was a running back in high school, and a pretty good one. And he showed that running back speed when he got it, and he was right to the end zone.
The Bison D has been awfully, awfully impressive. Again, I guess you have to put the caveat of who they played, but I mean, USD offensively, Phillips have been
here. It is right there. Look at it. Just
he was not going to get caught.
5, right?
Yes, sir. He was not going to get caught, as he told us in the post-game press conference. How they have been, they look faster. That's the thing. You're talking about trim with with Finn Diggins. That, to me, is what the Bison defense. It just looks fast. They're getting to the ball quickly, which maybe hasn't been the case over the last couple of years.
Well, losing Cody Heisman now has not been a big deal. I think Dutenheffer, we saw Logan Larson's been making.
Keenan
Wilson had a splash play.
Dude in the middle there. That's the one that, we talked about a couple years ago. Like, this guy could be good. Here it is now as a redshirt sophomore that he's come to play, that they have stemmed the tide on that loss. And the Sibamana loss isn't one. Donovan Woolen has been such an upgrade, I think, at that position that we're
not into October, and I think the Valley is pretty clear on where it's headed right now.
In terms of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've got NDSU,
and it's everybody
SDSU,
else.
so
UND,
and then Southern Illinois.
Well, I guess we'll find out either Illinois State or Southern Illinois next couple weeks.
I think Southern's in that mix. What about Youngstown? Youngstown plays the Jacks this week in Youngstown.
That's their chance.
It's a night game.
It's their chance to put a little stamp into the matters.
But here's the thing, to your point. Youngstown, Illinois State, SIU. They have not beaten the top Dakotas in forever. SIU beat the Bison in the spring year. Illinois State hasn't beaten the Bison in 15 years. We were there for that game. 2010.
Has it been that long?
2010, we were there.
15 years.
Yes. Now, there's been a couple times where they haven't played because of the round robin of the schedule. But Illinois State had its best team ever, 2014, lost in the championship game. 15, the Bison were. Remember, we were going to go to Normal, and then they lost to Richmond in the quarterfinals that year. They haven't, and frankly, there have been some games we've been to Normal where they've been jacked, like they will be on Saturday night. It hasn't been close. 2019 boat race. Last year, boat race. The one game was that quarterfinal playoff game. The James Robinson, we're going to give it to you 35 times.
It was 9-3.
Right, there wasn't a touchdown scored in that game. That was the one time, but that's it. I mean, you don't need to ask SPAC about any lingering. I mean, he knows full well. Now, the one thing, and we'll save a little bit more of this for our Bison video blog coming up later today, they have a returning quarterback. Tommy Rittenhouse is back. That's the one, if you want to talk about one position that is beleaguered Illinois State, it's QB. He has not been able to find that.
Yeah, but he did nothing against NDSU last year.
No.
And now you're going against, this is not North Alabama talking about NDSU's defense and speed.
Winker's right is back at running back for him, but I don't know. Sobkowitz is still there, their wide receiver, number 2 on the outside. Now, I think it is 6th year.
They may go down there, or they may get a big crowd night game.
I imagine it probably will be, and it's the Bison.
Get some big plays, and they could beat the Bison. Yep. I'm not. It's hard to do the comparative score game. I brought it up on the pregame show. You're knocking your head against the wall.
Correct, Amundo.
So this team did this, but there's so many players that have departed FCS for the transfer portal that September is preseason.
That's why I'll finish this segment how I started. Trust your eyes. What you've seen is likely what it is. And I should have trusted my eyes better on South Dakota, and I'm not going to.
But I guess I watched the Illinois State North Alabama game, and if I'm trusting my eyes,
you're worried about the result this weekend. It could be ugly. Could be. We'll see. Let's break. We come back much more with Jeff. We'll chat a couple other football topics as we roll on here on a busy Monday morning. Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Jeff Kolpack joining us each and every Monday. His appearance is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. I got a couple other topics I want to hit on. Email comes in. Dom, good afternoon. Hell of a game from the Bison. One thing was bugging me throughout the game on Saturday. Maybe you or Jeff can answer this. Even though we had a home game sellout, there were still a baffling amount of empty seats. What can NDSU do to fill empty seats held by third-party ticket holders or companies or locals that just don't put butts in the seats? Now, I will say this, and this is why I wanted to jump off on this. I think Bison football home games have become a thing again. Brody, you can bring up this shot.
It's trending that way, I think.
Troy Gergen got this photo on Saturday. This was during the Stampede March that they do 2.5 hours before the game. And I was out there before Bison game day. It was hopping. Tailgate was...
I heard that.
Tailgate was like 2019 kind of deal, I thought, when we were out there on Saturday morning. And I thought that the dome was juiced. It was good and loud. I get the emailer's point on, because there were empty seats in there. It was officially a sellout, but that's the tickets sold, not the butts that are actually in the seats. To me, there's a buzz about Bison football again that hasn't been there, I think, over the last 4 or 5 years. I really believe that for home
and
games
you wrote
here.
about it, and I've written about it. I credit the head coach.
Yep.
Let's just start right
Yep.
there, who has been all over the place in promoting the product and really energetic about it, too. Doing stuff like this. The administration has been open to a ticket package more than they used to. Just don't open the ticket window anymore and expect people to show up. I think they're getting some younger fans. The crowd was juiced, but when it's 27-0, you don't feel like you need to make a difference anymore.
No, you don't. And knowing full well the way the weather was Saturday, you knew the students weren't going to be there after halftime. We knew that. Kyle and I were talking about that off air, that they're out of here maybe midway through the second quarter, the way the game was. Now, going forward, Jeffrey, let's see, because the next 4 home games, right? Southern Illinois, Youngstown State, Northern Iowa, St. Thomas. There's no Dakota in there. That's a big deal to me. Can they still do it?
Still got to believe Northern Iowa will be a good draw. It's Northern Iowa.
I hope Southern Illinois could be a top 10 team by the time they come up here in a couple weeks. So they are right now. SIU is ranked 6th in the country.
Who did they have this week?
Goodness. Indiana State. So they're not going to lose that game. So they're going to be 4-1 coming to Fargo next week. Another place they haven't won is Nick Hill. Remind me, they haven't won since 2000. No, they've never won in Fargo. SIU's
I don't recall.
SIU's never won up
even
here,
when he was one of the team's quarterback.
Right. But that, to me, that's the true test. Youngstown State, that's November 1. That's the next one, and they'll be gone for a couple weeks. And then the end of the season with, you talked about Northern Iowa with me. They lost to Utah Tech a couple weeks ago. And St. Thomas, it's senior day. That's the true test. If I'm ready to proclaim that Bison football home games are a thing again, let's see 17,000, 17,500 for any of those 4 games, and then I'm ready to hop on board.
That's 17-5 for SEMO, though, and that's not exactly a marquee opponent that would go, okay, I need to see SEMO play.
Yep, you're exactly right. Another email comes in. Jeff, Cole Payton's a fantastic college football player. Is he Tim Tebow, or does he translate to an NFL guy at all? I'm not an elite college to pro mind, but his accuracy has been incredible. I've had a couple people mention the Tim Tebow thing.
I bet he runs a 4.5 something.
He's not.
That puts you in some NFL looks for sure.
I know there are 4 NFL scouts there on Saturday that they are looking at him maybe now more at quarterback than initially we thought. I think tight end was certainly a spot they were willing to consider. Maybe linebacker was another that maybe they got to start looking at him at quarterback too.
Well, the way he was 7 of 8 on passes of 15 yards or more.
Right, again,
that's good arm strength. That's
really
accuracy downfield.
Yes.
And that, again, we saw it earlier in the show, that the one to Bryce was just right in the breadbasket.
Right in the bucket, right where it absolutely had to be.
And that was not a 5-yard out. That was, 25, 30 yards in the air?
Really good. This is going back to our earlier topic. You guys discussed USD not doing a post-game presser. To say before the game they'll only have one if they win seems ridiculous, but is this more common than fans may think? Don't want to shovel dirt on them if it happens frequently. Maybe the Missouri Valley Football Conference should mandate pressers for conference games.
They should.
Absolutely on that last point.
Yes. NFL require. This isn't the NFL, but the NFL requires the quarterback.
I think
and
SEC
head coach
does now too, by the way, requires that the quarterback and head coach speak after the game.
We're talking about football here. We're not talking about a debilitating disease. It's football. I know it's important.
Yep.
But
you also eliminate rumor or innuendo because I don't know why Aiden Bauman was still in the game. Can you answer that for me? Why did you play? I don't know. I just think it's Division I football. We should have our head coaches and quarterbacks be made available.
It ain't intramurals, Dom.
No, they should be made available to us on it.
And I just the head coach. Let's just start, somewhere simple.
Okay,
make the head
I'm fine
coach
with
available.
that. Yeah,
start somewhere.
Yes, give me that. After that, anything else is gravy. But can we at least settle on that? And that may be something new commish. We'll see him soon. Maybe we could ask him on that.
Yeah, I think the league office is aware of it. They are aware now. Put it that way.
Last thing here. Did you make it to the end of the Montana game on Saturday night?
Yes.
Wow, good
barely.
for you. I did not make it to the end of it. Are we ready to put the Grizz in the top half of this conversation with the Jacks and the Bison.
You can't discount them, but they also haven't left Missoula yet.
They have not
this season. And we all know how tough that place is to play for opposing teams. So I'm close.
Okay,
I'm close.
Are you putting Tarleton in that?
Yes.
Tarleton with its FBS win, and then the last one would be the Cats, Montana State.
They seem to have found whatever ailed them. Boy, they put the hammer on Eastern Watt.
I know. I know, man. I know.
How sad is that?
It is.
It's sad.
It is. I like Aaron Best a lot, but I don't think he's going to survive this with what's going on at Eastern Washington. Granted, they got no funds to.
What was that score? 52-7?
56-7, I think it was. Yeah, it was a lot to a little there.
So, remember how good they were, even in 19 when they made the title game.
So here we are.
Was that 18?
It was the 2018 season, 19, January of 19 they played. So it's almost October 1. So we have 5 teams then that are in the mix for the championship.
Right. Yep.
No, that's what we've had over the last couple of years.
It's no different.
So we have the 4 Montana and Dakotas, and then Tarleton is the other team in the mix. I'm not arguing with. I'm with you on that. Just that here we go again. It's almost October, where basically we know who's going to be in the semifinals, right?
Yeah. Love FCS.
Although I will say, I made this on our picks. I think Harvard could be now that they're in the playoffs. They get a right matchup. They could be a quarterfinal.
Yeah, they
team.
handled Mighty Brown on Saturday.
I'm telling you, man. Now that they're in, let's just see where they get matched up with. Right?
How fun would that be?
Oh my gosh, let's go.
Bring the Crimson to Fargo, or better yet.
Oh,
that's not going to happen. Bison won't hit the road for a while.
Well, how about we do a little home and home with them? That'd be great. Great stuff as always, Bud. We'll see you later today for the Bison video blog, all right?
Good to see you, Tom.
Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday at 10 o'clock. Give us the lowdown on everything going on with the Bison. His appearances are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We come back. We'll recap on the weekend that was in high school ball. Some big-time results. We'll go through that, and I'll finally rip the Band-Aid off on the end of the baseball regular season. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this. All right, welcome back. Final half hour here of this Overreaction Monday. Time now for our high school football weekend recap. A lot of big games from over the weekend as we have crossed the halfway point of the 2025 regular season. The back end of this now, so we're going to start figuring out conference champs, start figuring out playoff seeding, all that kind of good stuff. So let's roll it from what we had happening on Friday. We'll start with our first game up. Actually, we have music under the highlights there, Brody. We don't need music on it because there's music on the tape. Central taking on Fargo South, and holy cow, the Knights, we previewed them a few weeks ago. They have been dynamite, and they did it again on Friday night against Fargo South. They got up big in this game, held off South 41-38. Central off now to a 5-0 start. Meanwhile, North and Horace played a wild one. Spartans got a big kick return. They could not corral Jackson Narrow. He had 4 touchdowns for the Dragon commit. The Hawks soar to a big win over Fargo North. They are now 4-1 on the season after a 56-13 win. A couple other games to keep our eyes on. Cheyenne and Davies played a wild one in South Fargo. In fact, they had 50 points in the first half. How about the Mustang? Jeremy Newton throwing the ball? Gets a big play there. This turned the tide. A pick 6. They gave Davies a 23-13 lead at that point. Then they added to it. They throw off. Then what's Davies doing throwing the ball? This pass goes for a big play to set up another touchdown. That made it a 30-13 Davies lead. They would add to it in the second half. The usual ground and pound exploded there. Davies racks up 51 on Cheyenne. The Eagles win it by that score, 51-27. They are now 4-1. Back to 2A football. Same old was happening up in Grand Forks. Kindred keeps on rolling. The Vikings, who came in unbeaten, left unbeaten, dominated the Riders to the tune of a 42-7 victory. Kindred keeps on showing that they are the class of 2A football. And when you get a big man pick, you know things are going your way, as happened on Friday night. They finished off the drive in style. They are now 5-0 on the season. Let's go through some of the scores from Friday from across North Dakota and the big schools. You saw what Horace did with its win over North, 56-13, the final there. Shanley gets a big win. They stay unbeaten, 36-28 as they knock off West Fargo. You saw what Davies did, 51-27. So Shanley and Davies are on a collision course here, folks. They're going to play in a couple weeks. That might be likely for the top seed out of the EDC once we get to the playoffs. Century is rolling. They've won 3 in a row. The Patriots, they got that win a couple weeks ago in West Fargo and beating Cheyenne. They shut out Mandan. The Braves are still looking for their first win. Bismarck with a rout of Minot. Magicians stay winless, and Bismarck picks up a big win. Legacy shakes off its loss to Davies with a 56-18 win over Williston. The Sabres are going to be heard from as well in 3A football. In the 2A ranks, you saw what Kindred did in its big win over Red River. Central ekes one out. Don't forget the Knights. They want to be in that conversation with Minot North. You saw Minot North with a big win over St. Mary's, 28-0. Devil's Lake is in the conversation as well. The Firebirds knock off Jamestown, 41-27. Watford City gets a win over Dickinson, 20-17. Watford's at 3-2. And Central Cass, a 40-0 win over Wahpeton. The Squirrels are at 4-1. So in 2A football right now, you've got Kindred, you've got Central, you've got Minot North unbeaten at 5-0. Then right underneath them, there's Central Cass hanging out at 4-1, and Devils Lake at 4-1. You got some good teams there in that 2A division that are potential that could upset the apple cart as the year goes on. So those are at least in 2A football. In 3A, on the eastern side of the state, we keep that music rolling, boys, if you wouldn't mind. In 3A football, it's clearly Shanley's number one. Shanley hasn't lost a game yet. They're at 5-0. Davies at 4-1. Horace at 4-1. Fun thing, they're all going to play one another, and it starts this weekend. Horace is finally going to play one of the West Fargo teams. They play West Fargo this weekend. Don't tell me they're going to be up for that one, either the Packers or the Hawks. That'll be a dynamite game on Friday night. And on the western side of the state, in 3A, Legacy's at 4-1. Century's, I'm telling you, Century's going to be there in the mix as well. And then Bismarck also at 3-2. So that's the top half of 3A as we move towards the back end of the season. It's just going to be a dynamite race to the finish on who's going to get where. Also, you didn't see in the highlights there, just a quick word on what happened Friday night in Moorhead. Maple Grove, our guy McFeely wrote about it in Friday's Inforum.com. You can check it out if you missed it. The amount of talent that Maple Grove has, we had Adam Spurl on the show, Maple Grove head coach, on Thursday to preview the game. They came up here, and it was a 21-14 game in the second quarter. Maple Grove was up on Moorhead, and then they put the hammer down after that to the tune of a 59-14 win. And again, the Spuds are without their standout quarterback in Jet Feeney, but that team is going to win a lot of football. I don't know if they'll lose this season. They're the reigning state champs. Their quarterback, Caden Harney, is a Division I commit. He's committed to South Dakota State. They've got a Division I cornerback in Braden Dozier who's going to play at North Dakota State. Their left tackle is a Division I player. He's committed to go to Montana State and Brett Vegan. Their fullback is committed, I believe, to go to the Air Force Academy. And there's a handful of other guys that I know the Bison staff is looking at. They're not necessarily 26 guys, that they're 27. Much like all the Spuds guys that the Bison staff are drooling over are all 27 guys as well. So they're not going anywhere there in Maple Grove. Just we'll keep our eyes fixated on that throughout the rest of the season. But that's our high school football recap from the weekend. Some dynamite games there. We do it each and every Monday. Look forward to see how this pans out for the next couple weeks, because now we got conference games, and they'll start to show us who's for real and who's not on the high school side. All right, it's time now. I've waited an hour and 42 minutes into the show so I can do this. The baseball season breaking news ended yesterday. For those that have given up on the Twins long ago, I'm obligated to inform you that the baseball season is now over. The Twins finished 70-92. And I had an email come into the show. Dom, when do we expect the Twins to make a decision on Rocco Baldelli? I think today. I honestly, I think the decision has already been made. Frankly, I would be surprised if he's back. I should give Eric a shout out on this. Did you know we got aggregated over the weekend? First time for Hot Mike that we got aggregated over the weekend. We had Corey Provis on the show, as we do each and every Friday, and we were talking about the future of the team and who's going to be on the team next season. And I was asking him about Joe Ryan, about Pablo Lopez. He brought up Byron Buxton, which was a full stop because I don't know if anybody's been talking about that because he said, I don't know if this is the last time that we're going to see Byron play with the Twins. Well, that blew up. I'm looking at our Hot Mic feed over the weekend, and it's blowing up because I believe Twins Daily picked it up and quoted our story, quoted our interview, linked our interview, so we appreciate. So the Twins rubes are blowing up our feed over the weekend. So there's another notch in the belt. We got aggregated. Let's go. That's the only thing to chat about with the Twins now. But the baseball bracket is set. This is what it looks like. Playoffs will begin tomorrow with best of 3. Padres will play the Cubs at Wrigley. Those games are going to be on WDAY. That'd be fantastic, starting tomorrow at 2. The Reds are going to play the Dodgers in the other series, which I'll get to in a minute about how despondent I am on that. In the American League, the Yankees are playing the Red Sox. Think about that. The Yankees are playing Boston in a best of 3. Those games will be at Yankee Stadium. And then the other series, the Tigers and the Guardians. The Guardians won the division. The Guardians were down 15 games and won the American League Central. If that's not the biggest collapse in baseball history, I'm not sure what is. Cleveland wins the division. They will get the Seattle Mariners if they win, or the Tigers will advance on as Seattle gets the 2 seed. Blue Jays are the number 1 overall seed. They'll get the winner of the Red Sox and Yankees. Meanwhile, the Phillies are the 2, and the Brewers the 1 seed to play either Chicago or San Diego. Now, yesterday, and a long, long line of disappointing sports days. I'm not sure where this one ranks, but it's up there. Because of the weekend played out, the Mets, all they had to do was win a baseball game and have the Cincinnati Reds lose. So, Friday night, Mets lost to the Marlins. The Reds beat the Brewers. So, automatically, the Reds moved into the final spot because they have the tiebreaker on New York. Saturday, Mets get a great performance. They win, but the Reds won. So, it stayed same going into the final day of the season. So then, again, yesterday, the $340 million payroll Mets have no plan for their starting pitcher. Basically saying, like I did in high school, I'll wing it for a test. They were winging it for game 162, a game they had to win. And they, not only did they not win, they didn't even score. They were shut out. And then, of all things, the Reds lost. The Brewers did us a solid, and we couldn't even score a bleeping run. And yesterday, the Marlins celebrated like they won the World Series because they had eliminated the Mets for the 3rd time in the last 18 years. On the last day of the season. It happened in 2007. It happened in 2008. Now it happened in 2025. Utterly ridiculous, frustrating, sad, any emotion that I can think of. I'm still having them today. Because I saw that bracket there and it just, oh man, I cannot believe it. They had the best record in baseball on June 17th, on my son's birthday. I told the Jackman that on his birthday. I'm like, buddy, the Mets are the best team right now. There's a chance they could go to the World Series this year, and Jack was over his head. He's all in on the Cubs, though, I can tell you that. I distinctly remember, June 17th, they got the best record, and they finished with about as bad a record as the Twins did over the final 3.5 months of the season. Not good. And here's the part that's maybe more agonizing. It's not like the Reds played unbelievable. The Reds were 25-26 over the final 51 games. Don't lose to the Nationals, right? Don't lose to the Braves when you're up 3 in the 8th inning. It's not Mets fan line, I understand, but holy Christmas. And there's a couple, I know, emails coming on this. This is probably sweet retribution for how the Mets won last year, beat the Brewers, beat the Phillies. I've got plenty of Philly fans already in my grill. That's fine. Good luck to you. Can a large hole open up and swallow up both the Brewers and the Phillies? I'd be okay with that. Because there's certainly there's 2 Cubs fans in my house that would want to see that happen. But honestly, when you look at that bracket again, it's wide open. I think Corey mentioned this as well on the show on Friday. If you look at, there's nobody overwhelming to say absolutely stone cold they're going to win it. I mean, the Dodgers could get hot, sure. Brewers, can they keep that play going into the postseason? We'll see. Philadelphia is going to be a wagon. They're going to be tough to beat at home. I love the Mariners. Seattle's story is tremendous, and they've got dynamite pitching. They've got the MVP on their team. And Toronto, imagine if it's Seattle and Toronto for the pennant. 2 teams have never won it. Well, excuse me, the Blue Jays have won it, not since 1992. And the Mariners have never won it. Or you could have the ultimate Seattle and Milwaukee. We're the old Seattle Pilots, right? Move from Milwaukee out there. Gosh, there's 2 teams that have never done it. Sign me up for that. That would be a fun World Series. Be unbearable in these offices for the Brewer fan that we work with on a daily basis, but it would be fun to see if it ends up coming to pass. Yes, email comes in from a likely source. I can't help myself, Dom, but go Reds. Yes, appreciate that. All right, let's take our final break. We come back. We got to reveal our Eliminator standings, who survived out of the weekend, and we'll get you ready for a busy Monday. It's a Jets Monday night. Holy cow. Let's add on the agony. Hot Mike wraps after this. All right, Eliminator Challenge time to see how we came out this weekend. I know at least one survived. Jackman moved on. Sam had the Chargers, so Sam bites the bullet. He's done. They lost to the Giants yesterday. Matt has the Broncos, as does Brody, so they're itching tonight because they're playing Cincinnati. Benell picked his beloved Lions to win, so Eric and Jack are through. Are you going to try and beat a 6-year-old for this gift card? Are you kidding me right now? That's we got the Eliminator results. We'll see what happens.
I've been trying.
We'll see. Coming up tonight, we got that to wrap up the weekend. So we're down to just 4 now after Sam losing out on the Chargers. Let's do a couple emails before we get out of here. This going back earlier. Dom, I'm not impressed with Army. Not impressed with their game on Saturday. We're talking about Tarleton had beaten Army earlier this season. Dom, how could it possibly be so difficult for the NFL to get the overtime rule to make sense? They're finally getting closer, but there's no reason that an NFL game should end in a tie. If they would eliminate the time limit and both teams that possess the ball, they should play until one team scores. Game over. In this day of routine field goals of 50 to 60 yards, it shouldn't take long to determine a winner. Seems simple enough. I've hammered on this for like 4 years. This is like red meat to me on the overtime deal. I was not a fan of that game ending last night. I don't think anybody was satisfied it ended in a tie. The NFL doesn't want them playing forever, but I think we want a winner. And every time it happens, we're just left with this taste in our mouth. Especially it happened on Sunday Night Football. It's one thing if it happened in the 1 o'clock window with the Colts and the Titans. It happened with the Packers and the Cowboys on Sunday night. That may spur something. We'll see. Appreciate all the emails today. It was great stuff. We didn't even get a chance to get to everybody. Let's do some What to Watch, though, before we get out of here. All right, What to Watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Here we go tonight. It's a Jet game night on Monday Night Football. What other pain can I take? The 0-3 Jets and the 0-3 Dolphins. Somebody's got to win. No, they'll probably tie as well. 6 o'clock on ESPN. We've got Monday Night Football as well. The Bengals and the Broncos, 7:15. That game exclusive on WDAY tonight. So we've got the overlapping Monday night situation tonight. Also, for you soccer nerds, I don't have you forgotten you. Premier League, Everton and West Ham United coming up this afternoon. Nothing wrong with a little Premier League, 2 o'clock on the USA Network to wrap up our What to Watch for today. So we got one day to wait. Baseball playoffs get going tomorrow. We got to go. Our thanks to Sam Herter and Jeff Kolpack. Appreciate all our emails as well that were submitted on today for our Best of the Weekend. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Have a great Monday, everybody. We'll be back to celebrate a Jets victory tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.